Hey everybody, we are back. We have finished about a 50-minute cook time. So this is actually the first time that I've made this in these ovens out here. Now in my oven in my kitchen, it takes somewhere about 45 minutes. And it's still real jiggly, but the top is browned and we'll take a look at it. I mean, you can probably see it pretty good where we are today, but I'm gonna go overhead so that you can get the full effect. But we finished that cook time, and then I took the whole sheet pan out of the oven, let it sit here for just a minute, and then carefully transferred it to like a wire cooling rack so that it could finish cooling completely. It's still a little warm on the bottom. Like I can pick it up on the sides, but if I put my hand on the bottom, it's still warm. Now this pie is fine to sit out at room temperature if you need to let it cool all day. I do store mine in the refrigerator covered if we don't eat it all, and we probably won't just because we're not big sweet eaters here. And to me, if you're not a big sweet eater, this buttermilk pie is a really good treat to have. So let's take a look at it. So you can see where I have cut my piece out, and look how cleanly it came out, even still warm. I mean, I can turn it and you can see that it's nice and firm, but when I first took it out of the oven, it was still very jiggly. And look at that slice. I've already taken pictures, but that custard is set up all nice and beautiful. And you can take your fork and put it right through it, and it doesn't collapse. See, it just kept its whole shape, and I'll show you from the side there. But it's delicious. It's springy, and let's taste it. It's still warm, so I really wanted to taste it while it was still warm. That's my favorite thing. Clean, warm, sweet, but with a slight tartness to it. We didn't put so much lemon juice in there that you can actually taste the lemon. It just works with the buttermilk to brighten it up and balance out all that sugar that we put in there. That's why this is one of the most famous Southern recipes is buttermilk pie, because you know, it's so good, it's so simple. A lot of people have referred to this back from years ago as what's called a desperation pie. And that's different than a depression recipe, because desperation goes back even farther. This recipe actually, it's not really Southern at all. It's more British than it is anything else, because this is one of the recipes that came from England whenever our forefathers settled here in the United States. Buttermilk was in ample supply, so they found all kind of creative uses for it, and making desserts was one way that they used it. And there are so many different variations of buttermilk pie. I added lemon juice and gosh, it just left me, the nutmeg. But you can take it and make it so many other things. There is a lady down here who's famous for her pies who actually uses this base to make a coconut pie. You could add unsweetened shredded coconut to the mixture and put it in, and it turns it into a whole different thing. And you can leave out the nutmeg, and you can leave out the lemon juice. So this is a good basic custard pie that is delicious just on its own. Simple, fresh, pantry staple ingredients. And this is one that, to me, because most everyone has these ingredients and in their refrigerator or their pantry, it's not a hard one just to mix up. And if you've got unexpected company coming, there's nothing better than a nice warm piece of home cooked pie. You can buy a box pie and you can dress that up in so many different ways. You can buy a boxed Jell-O pie, no bake, and dress it up in so many different ways. I'm not knocking that, but there's just no replacement for the scratch made Southern buttermilk pie, and you can do so many things with it. Now, why is this not a chess pie? Oh, they're so similar. They're so similar. And like its forefather, the buttermilk pie, It also is developed out of England. But there's one big difference. It uses about half of the flour that we used and instead uses yellow cornmeal. That's what differentiates the buttermilk pie from the chess pie. Chess pies don't typically have lemon juice in them most times, but you'll see a lot of recipes out there that have chess pies, just the regular, what we call the vanilla chess pie, that has some lemon juice in it. Or they put a lot more lemon juice than we did, and it becomes a lemon chess pie. So having really good, simple, staple recipes like this buttermilk pie and a chess pie for that matter in your recipe box is a good staple way to do what we have always liked to do here, is get your wheels turning and get you thinking about your food, and take a really beautiful, easy recipe like this absolutely gorgeous buttermilk pie and making it your own so that it can become a recipe heirloom that's handed down for generations and generations. One of the things that I like to talk about, and then we talked about some yesterday when I did my intro post, is that yes, from time to time we share recipes like this that typically you have or you know, but have you taught them to anybody? One of the most beautiful and wonderful things that my grandmother ever did for me was allow me to be in her kitchen with her, watching, asking questions, learning, things like that. Foundations of cooking are so important, and that's one of the reasons that we started the Buttered Home all those years ago, because my girls were teenagers and they liked to cook, but it's because they were in the kitchen with me and we saw a lot of girls their age who just weren't interested in it, and that's simply because they'd never been exposed to it. I think there's no greater reward for work that you've done in the kitchen than taking that first cook's piece of pie. And I think my cook's piece looked pretty good. Usually whenever I take that first piece out, buddy, it looks like I've mangled it. But not today, it did pretty. So the Lord must be smiling and shining down on me, because he let my first piece look as good as it did. We hope that you will try this recipe and love it as much as we do. And I didn't taste any nutmeg. Nutmeg just balances things out. It's a lot like putting sugar in savory recipes and putting salt in sweet recipes. It does its job. So before you decide that you're going to make it, but not with nutmeg, I challenge you to try it. And just do a little. It just adds a little warmth and beauty to this pie. And like somebody said earlier on the earlier post, the fresh nutmeg, freshly ground, is a game changer. If you typically don't like nutmeg, if you get the already ground, try it fresh grated, and it might make a difference in how you feel about it. This recipe, like all of our others, I have linked it in the description here for this video as well as the last, but it can be found at thebutteredhome.com, and you get a nice free printable recipe card. We're real proud of this. This makes it so that you don't have to take notes during our videos. This makes it so that you don't have to come back. You can simply go to one place, which is thebutteredhome.com, and you can search for any recipe that you like, or you can even search by ingredient and find it and print it, or screenshot it if you'd rather. But this is where you take our recipe and you turn it into yours. We leave lots of room over here on the side so that you can make notes about any substitutions or any additions that you've added to it, or just all the notes that make it your own. And if you haven't done it already, write down in your own handwriting one of your family's favorite recipes and give it as a gift. I can think of nothing better than some of my prized recipes that I have written in my mama's hand, my Aunt Peggy's hand, and my grandmama's hand. And I've even got a couple in frames in my kitchen. So I think we spend a lot of time thinking about what things that we can pass down and what things we can give as gifts and things like that. But cooking is an investment of your time. not by just cooking it and feeding people, which is a love offering all its own, but taking the time to spend some time with those you love in the kitchen, teaching them a new skill, showing them how to make a recipe, and then something as simple as your handwriting on a piece of paper or a recipe card is just something that one day that won't ever be able to be replaced. So we hope that you'll take that thought with you this beautiful Saturday and make some buttermilk pie, and be sure and give us a visit over at thebutteredhome.com. That is the best way that you can support me and other creators like me, is to spend a little time over on our websites. I'm glad y'all been with us this morning. We've had a real good time. And now I'm trying to decide if I want to have just one more bite of this pie or if I need to do something just with the whole piece. I got to save the rest for Big D because this is his favorite. And so I will. I'll be good and save the majority of it for him. If y'all make this, please let me know. Send me a picture. I love pictures of food, and that includes yours too. So from all of us here at The Buttered Home to your home, y'all have a happy Saturday.